Looking for a cheap and fun car that you can drive the total piss out of? Well, all of the cars on this list, plus the honorable mention, will always plant a smile on your face. They're fast, they're ridiculously fun in the twisties. And you know what the best part is? They'll pack one hell of a punch that will always impress the girl riding shotgun. Oh, and the last car on this list can tear up rubber like no other and also is the only car on the list with a V8. Let's go! When you own a WRX, there is one season that trumps all of the others. Winter. Specifically, an empty parking lot exploiting the ungodly four-wheel drive in the sun of a rally car. Damn. That is until you hit something static. Oh. It'll buff out, right? Well, either way, if you need a cheap performance car that can plow through just about any terrain, you'd be hard-pressed to find anything better than a bug-eyed WRX to do the job. With a turbo Boxer 4 pushing out 227 horses and 217 foot-pounds of torque, it does quick work of almost any terrain that gets in its way. And because of that sexy all-wheel drive, just rev up that motor, dump the clutch, and 0 to 60 comes in 5.6 seconds. Just don't do it too much or your axles will hate you for it. And here's the thing, the Impreza WRX is a high performance budget performer. And if you want to learn more about the evolution of them, check this out here. But for real, turbo lag is a real thing because to hoon this thing, you need to keep the tach above 3,500 RPM. Otherwise, the WRX will feel as gutless as its turboless sibling. Now, all you gotta do is use the ideal car strategies to snag an ideal deal on a near race-ready WRX. Buy some vape juice, hella horns, a short throw dipstick. Wait, there isn't a short throw dipstick. And a Cobb access port, baby. And get ready to be the coolest kid on the block. Oh, and how could I forget that straight pipe? I mean, after all, we all know what Subaru stands for, right? Souped up badass racing unit. That's what, simply said, the WRX rocks. The second turbo on this list, and the first one named after a belly button, is a car I always lusted over and actually owned for a hot minute. That is until the turbos started to go and it meant massive surgery to repair them. The Audi B5 S4 either has or will be on almost everyone's short list of ideal cars to own, and for good reason. The twin turbo V6 pushes out 250 horses and 258 foot-pounds of torque, which will get you into the perfect amount of trouble. And with a simple chip and exhaust, you're looking at 350 German horses that's made it to a fun 6-speed manual tranny. Plus, it's the hotter version of the first generation A4. And aesthetically, it's just a beautiful performance car with a hint of luxury. Now, the reason that you can find these for relative bargains is because they're about as high maintenance as your ex-girlfriend. Don't give me that. Oh, you know she was high maintenance. Which isn't a problem if you have deep pockets and you can consistently throw money at it. Because they're now older cars, common issues that you'll find on the B5 platform are spark plugs, coils, wheel bearings, rear main seals, valve cover gaskets, chain tensioner, and the timing belt and water pump will need to be replaced. Plus, like on mine, the turbos like to fail. So yeah, it can be bought cheap, it's extremely fun, but even more high maintenance. And if you get one, promise me this. Slap some KO4 turbos on it and get the vanity plate, adios. Yeah, I have good ideas every once in a while. Every automaker and their mom would love to have an entry-level luxury car as popular as the BMW 3 Series. If you've ever been in one, you know that BMW has stayed committed to building a car that's responsive, compact, fun to drive, and connected to the driver. So let's pretend for a second that you're the CEO of Toyota, and you want a piece of that entry-level luxury car pie. What do you build? The Lexus IS300. That's what. It has a low curb weight, rear-wheel drive, a wonderful, reliable 2JZ inline 6-inch. Wait, yes, I did just say 2JZ, like the exact same motor that came in the Mark IV Supra. Now, the 2JZ that came in the IS300 did not have the 2 sequential turbochargers. And you know what's so amazing about these engines? Is that they're strong as hell and can handle a ton of turbo boost pressure. Meaning your IS300 is a turbo or two away from being a supercar killer. So much potential. But what if we take a step back? Stock 2JZs only make 215 horsepower and about the same torque, pushing it to 60 miles an hour in a slightly laughable 7.4 seconds. But what's awesome is this car hails from the era of hydraulic steering. So this thing feels like an athlete in the twisties. So you don't necessarily buy this car for stock performance numbers. You buy it because it's a good looking, fun to drive car with a ton of potential. And when you're ready, slap forced induction on that 2JZ, turn the dial up to 11, and let her rip. The Volkswagen GTI has been around longer than most of us have been alive. And I don't really know exactly where I was going with this, other than they've been around for decades. Now, the Mark I and Mark II GTI was okay, but the Mark III, it was special because it was the first GTI to house a V6. And if you've never heard one in person, well, you're in for a treat. Now 0 to 60 comes in 6.7 seconds, which isn't bad, but the real magic is the VR6 power plant, pushing out 172 horsepower and 173 foot-pounds of torque. And the beauty is that 85% of that torque is available at 2,000 RPMs. Making it a total blast to rip around. And since it's a hot hatch with a unique exterior shape, large windows, a ton of interior space, including well-bolstered seats that seem to grip your torso in turns. Oh, and its nickname is the Pocket Rocket. This VW keeps getting cooler and cooler. And before we switch gears to the last car on this list, which has a panty-dropping 5-liter V8, here is that honorable mention, baby. If I do say so myself, the Nissan 300ZX Z32 is a 90s Japanese sports car bargain. Back in 1990, the 300ZX was state of art. It was literally the first car designed completely by computer-aided design, or you might be more familiar with the acronym CAD. And with other Japanese sports cars of the same era, like the Mark IV Supra and the 3rd gen RX-7 soaring in price, you're essentially looking at one of their competitors that's a sporty GT car, and it has both the curb appeal and the reliability to back it up. The naturally aspirated 300ZX is definitely worth the look. The 3-liter VG30DE V6 makes 222 horses and 198 foot-pounds of torque. And although the NAs aren't going to command the premium that the turbos bring, that's totally fine if your main goal is to have a blast for less than 5K. Plus, the base model is way easier to work on, and aesthetically, I think it's almost as good looking as the turbo. And I almost forgot. The one thing that you can totally brag about all the way to the bank is the fact that the Nissan Fairlady headlights were used on the Lamborghini Diablo. Yes, Audi owned Lamborghini, and in 1999, they got rid of the love 'em or hate 'em pop-up headlights, which you can find out why they had to get rid of them in our video about 7 car features that no longer exist. So when Audi got rid of the Diablo's pop-up headlights, instead of spending millions of dollars on engineering a new headlight, they simply licensed Nissan's headlights. And as you can see, Lamborghini was so tricky, they used a carbon fiber piece to hide the Nissan on top of the headlight. So you ask, why would an exotic brand like Lamborghini do this? Simple, because they were already putting all their R&D money towards building the Murcielago. There you have it, guys. You can buy a 300ZX with Lambo headlights. Or is it the other way around? Oh boy, here comes the Pony Express. The Ford Mustang is a legendary model that's been around since April 17th, 1964. And on that day, Ford single-handedly created the 2+2 sporty coupe market. And the eager public responded by ordering an astonishing 22,000 vehicles on the very first day it was released. So saying the SN95 Mustang isn't an American icon is like saying you don't like vanilla ice cream on your apple pie. And Motor Trend's 1994 Car of the Year is here to deliver a performance of a lifetime, if all you got is 5,000 bucks. Because the V8 pushing out 215 horses makes all the right sounds. And for the right price, it's hard to beat. But you know what else is hard to beat? These modern sleepers that eat supercars for lunch. Or check out what YouTube recommends you watch next. Oh, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe. But either way, you can't lose, and as always, keep living that ideal lifestyle.